Now, Jason has actually got papers for us. He put his own time and money to get this information. These are the most recent papers and documents about Planet 9, they call it. They don't call it Planet X anymore. It's called Planet 9. Looks like there's a 99.99% chance, according to these guys, some of the brightest minds in the field, that there is a huge anomaly in our solar system that's causing the planets to shift off axis and many other issues that people are talking about today. Now, is this Nibiru or wormwood? I don't know. Is it something? Yes. So Jason's going to break this down for us. Jason, thanks a lot for joining us here at the Leak Project. How the heck are you?
I'm doing good as usual, Rex. Just going ahead, and we're taking the time to re-record this.
Yeah, let's tell people about that.
We had a problem the other night where we were shooting the show, we got interrupted, and we were using a different program to record it because of our Skype problems, and we shared some information with each other on Skype on how to reach each other through this other program, and then it started being interfered with. My internet signal seemed to be hijacked or something again, and now we can't get the data to format or convert over open at all. So we've actually tried for hours, so we're just going to go ahead and reshoot this and try again here. So
third time's the charm.
But the draft version of this is July 15th of this year. So they released this just a couple days before to the public, okay? So we're going to go over some of the first ones here. What's going on is they're just showing these astrophysicists, geological, and planetary scientists are studying together with previous works and all these reference papers. So I had to set up an account, I had to pay for their papers, and I have to give them credit because it's their work and not mine. I'm just interpreting their work and information to the public, okay? So I'll go ahead and go to the reference page, actually, on this one, on all of them here, and give you some
But this is all
references.
just conspiracy theorist stuff, guys. I mean, these people don't have degrees and very prestigious colleges. They haven't spent years of their life researching this stuff. I mean, when you look at some of these mathematical formulas, I don't even think I could put that stuff in a calculator, let alone figure it out myself. Man, it's incredible.
Yes, you could program it into the calculator if you had some, calculus classes and algebra 2 classes, really advanced math. And I mean, when I say advanced, I mean advanced, not the basics. You'd have to have a very high understanding of that. But the math is there, and it's simple to some people, crazy to us. Okay, it's completely Chinese to us at times. I feel like I can roughly translate. I can see what they're talking about, understand symbols and things like that. That's about it. Like this right here. That's 10 Earth masses. That little symbol with the cross in it is Earth. The quadrants of the Earth, and M is the mass. 10 is obviously the mass. 10 Earth masses. That's 10 times the mass of Earth. So they say there's something out there. I'll just read it to you. Recent analysis have shown that the distant orbits within the scattered disk population of the Kuiper Belt exhibit an unexpected clustering in their respective arguments to the perihelion. They found basically what they're saying. They found 7 objects, just like I said before, 7 objects around something that's about 10 masses of the Earth out there. And they're saying they show that not only in an argument of perihelion, it says in physical space, they're saying these things share, they're really there, they're not just a gravity effect that's amplified. There's something really there. We demonstrate that they're basically saying that clustering only has a probability of 0.0007% due to chance. So they ran all of these observations, everything they could, completely randomly 1,000 times, and the only way they could replicate that is not even a whole percent chance of a time, not even 1,000th of a percent of a chance of time. And then, actually, when you correlate their data and their findings with the other knowns that this thing has to be, it goes down way, way less than that. They're almost certain. All they have to do is name it, which it's already been named for years in our history books, I believe. I believe this is the one they're really making a deal about, Nibiru, whatever it was. I believe this is the Planet X. I believe that's the ninth, the planet that they're talking about that actually considers to be a planet. If you'd like to add anything on this, Rex, before I go on?
Yeah, I would actually. Yeah, absolutely. Now, this is a conversation I've been having recently with several guests. I think I've talked to you about it before the show and friends of mine. This planetary body or anomaly that they've discovered that's causing some planetary shifts and such, if it is Nibiru, if it is Wormwood, Nemesis, Red Kachina, whatever, I don't know. Yet, the more I think about this Planet X theory and the orbit of this 3,600-year process, the Anunnaki, etc., what if this planetary body moves in a fashion to where they can actually decide where it goes? So you've heard of the Type 2, 3 civilizations that can actually move time and space, etc. And if you look at our technology, how much we've advanced over the past just 20 years, it is exponential. It compounds on top of itself. And if we were manipulated by the Anunnaki and many of these references that are talked about through the Sumerian tablets, the Gilgamesh stories, etc., the Atrahasis, Atrahasis, thank you. Yeah,
Numa Elish.
Yes.
Numa Elish.
Thank you. Thank you. Well, maybe, just maybe, they can actually control this thing and decide where it goes. And with the right manipulation in the media, they can keep us in this factor of, okay, it's over there. It's going to be at this location at a specific time. And we're always in this thought of it's coming here, but we don't know exactly when it's going to get here. We think it's going to be this year. We think it's going to be next year. We think it's going to be the year after that. A lot of times people say September 23rd. That seems to be the most famous date. And then there's a lot of the correlations with when we talked about what's in Revelation. You've been on the show. Gerald Clark's talked about this. Mauro Bellino, the gentleman Jacob that we had on the other day that did the 623. Also, Gil Broussard, Bob Fletcher, a whole bunch, BP, Earthwatch, a whole bunch of people have came up with this. So I'm sure I could go on for 5 shows just the people that have came with the same conclusion. Yet maybe they can control the time and date, and maybe they've been controlling things all along behind the scenes. So instead of fearing about this planet causing the pole shift and this just crazy chaos, well, I don't know if that's the best way to focus on this kind of stuff. Maybe it's always been there. Maybe now they're just letting us know about it. That's where I'm going with this.
I feel that they're definitely, it shows throughout past, and I feel when they starting to reveal things like that and throughout the religious texts and things like that, you're most definitely right that it was a controlled. If they're showing you, hey, this is the date ahead of time, and this is what to look for, and these type of things, it was almost to give more credence to the religions and the things that maybe the people started to doubt at that time. It almost gives perfect timing if you think about it. And like you said, it steers. You could easily steer when you're reading those ancient texts and stuff. It sounds almost as if it was a spaceship they were coming on, a hollowed-out planet, if you will, that they could control at least to some degree, the rotational fields and gravitational effects they have and how they interact with other planets and sort of steer and slingshot this planet around. It seems very much that way, but whether or not, like I said, when you're looking at God in that same sense, it seems completely opposite in effect of the natural way of things, but also going with the natural way of things. Obviously, there's a lot of anomalies we can't prove with just a natural explosion or situation. That something had to manipulate or place these things in that order to make the perfect petri dish, if you will. At times it looks, but if you say that in the same sense, then they already knew nature. It was almost like they removed themselves from this. They were just scholars and scientists and things like that, toying with nature, playing God, if you will, but not really the 0-point energy, the force that binds us all, the energy that everything's tied to, not that God in the same sense. All right. So yeah, to completely say that, this is that, and this is this is that. No, it could be a completely positive thing. It could be like bringing completely rays of awesome galactic just
goodness.
Radiation off it. Yeah, that's why probably a lot of us are waking up, like I was showing you with the galactic core and how it rises and dips through the galactic core there the other day on that video. So
on the video that we are not able to present today because the Zoom goblins got to it. And I'll tell you, this is incredible. It's funny because this is stuff that we're looking at science right here. And one thing that people know about science is it does rewrite itself on a continual basis, yet this is cutting edge right here. The stuff we're looking at, this is information that's just been released. And for those that go to Caltech and certain universities that research this kind of stuff, you can find this for yourselves. But most people don't know where to look, or they're so focused in their daily lives that they don't get access to this kind of information. And the neat thing about you, Jason, is this is a passion of yours. So you're actually just looking for this stuff because you really want to get to the truth. This is something you enjoy doing, such as maybe someone that goes out on their motorcycle up into the hill country or something like that and enjoys some twisties, or in a sports car, or rock climbing, or whatever. This is one of your passions, is knowledge. And for some reason, you, especially, I've noticed, more than many people, you're doing this on your time off. You're working hard, so you can take a couple of days off to go do this kind of research and speak with people like myself here at the League Project to get this information out there.
Yeah, it's definitely a passion type thing, and on a quest for knowledge, if you will, like universal truth and things like that. You want to know, and when you start to see so many correlations and coincidences, you can eliminate the coincidences basically and start studying. Basically, there you go. And once you start realizing that all these branches of science come together at some point, and each of them have to answer to one another for what's going on because each of them presents a new piece of evidence that the other can't explain. They don't like that. It challenges the norm, and it gets pushed under the rug because everything that their things are thoughts and lies and researches are based off of fundamentally half truths and things like that. If there's another system in our solar system tugging on us, a binary sun, whatever type process this would be to cause this, okay? So they can go and say, they'll go as far as to say recent discoveries, VP 113 in Sedna, which I've shown you in previous videos. This one was the one where I showed you the red, blue, and green dot all taken in a picture. That was called a blink test, and they could see how fast it was moving and which direction it was moving, and that was just discovered in 2012. A lot of these were discovered in 2012, an amazing amount of them, including Comet Ison, like I was telling you in that previous video.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so we go down, and it just tells you that in this paper that there's something tugging, just like all the other papers. They know about how big it is, and because of multiple papers, every one of these things you see is a link, every sentence, all right, with every paragraph. If there's a reference at the end, that paragraph was proven by these scientists in this paper before. You click on it, it'll go to the bottom, and it'll show you the book, the reference, the page, the paper, and how they proved it with their formulas. It'll go into 12 more pages on how they proved this paragraph. So you can look into this for hours and hours and hours if you want, but we don't have to. We'll kind of cut right to the point. Here's some charts, and it shows you just some correlation. They started to see some direct correlation. They started entering random data, and they added an object that was 10 Earth masses, 15 Earth masses, and 20 Earth masses. And they went along with the known data and unexplained things, that phenomenon that was going on, and basically came up with a hypothesis that when we do these same orbits, see, this is a big picture and portion of what's going on. They're like, wait, what's pulling all these things out this way? So you can just see that if you make a semicircle right here, everything would be contained inside of that, and it would pull everything outside of this perfect circle, and it would explain for a lot of stuff. There's something being out here, and that's basically it. Even if it had moons, whatever around it. See, these little things are tiny, so if this thing was out here and it had moons around it, just like this, or other things around it, then these things could be rotating around it, being pulled or strung and spaced as it moves too. So they're realizing that when they entered the 10 Earth masses, just that they started getting correlating data that just could not happen. All right, and go down to the equations. This is just one of the papers. This is from February of this year, I believe. They basically show you how they can tell all this data. They can see the gravitational lines and things like that to basically show you that, hey, there's something there around this area pulling on everything, pulling it out of a perfect orbit. And when they present it with different masses, different inclinations, different degrees that it's approaching us, then they get different answers. So they could see that it's around 10 Earth masses and coming at us at about a 30 to 20 degree angle. And it explains everything, even the tilt of the sun that we see today. And I'm getting ready to go into that paper in just a moment.
Thing that if I can real quick, just bring up
Go ahead.
that adds to what I was talking about earlier about this Planet X or Planet 9, Nibiru, always being there just in different locations. Here's an article from NASA, Science. You can actually go to science.nasa.gov/science, and you can pull this up, type in Planet X. You can even Google it, find it real fast, reference point. This is from July 29, 2005. 10th planet discovered. It's definitely bigger than Pluto, so says Dr. Mike Brown of the California Institute of Technology, who announced today that the discovery of a new planet in the outer solar system. The planet, which hasn't been officially named yet, was found by Brown and colleagues using the Samuel Oschin telescope at Palomar Observatory near San Diego. It's currently about 97 times farther away from the sun than the Earth, and it's for comparison, Pluto is 40 AU units from the sun, and this one's 97. So that's interesting. And then every time there's an article that comes out, it's a little bit closer. It's a little bit closer. It's a little bit bigger. There's a couple more specks over there with that telescope. Oh, those are the planets. Those are the moons around it. It just seems like they've been conditioning us with this stuff since even that black and white film that they made in the early 1900s or the 1940s or something like that you sent me, where Planet X discovered, and you've got Robot Man walking around, and there's references to the Anunnaki and all that kind of stuff. It just seems like they've embedded this stuff in our psyche since, I don't even know how far back.
Since time began. Think about even the ancient cultures. That's like Zeus and all that stuff. It's just been embedded into their culture. I mean, even like Darth Vader and Luke Skywalker is almost like Enlil and Thoth, battling. Like it's like every aspect of our culture has been engrazed with this old story and just glazed over with a different shell, so people can regurgitate it or reform it or take it into their brain. And then once you start realizing this stuff, it's everywhere. And they've been doing this to culture for everywhere. The guy that you brought up, Brown, he's actually the one that wrote all 3 of the papers that I'm showing you. This is his paper with his colleagues.
Oh.
This is what.
So he's still on the cutting edge then.
Yeah, he's the one that's following it and releasing information slowly, bit by bit, to the public. And I believe that he's working in conjunction with some people that are telling them how to present things in a way that it isn't very, very mainstream. Just it won't be pulled in there. Like I said, they give it Planet 9 tag name, but everything else falls into. I mean, wait till you see this next couple papers I'm showing you. This is the observational constraints on the orbit and location of Planet 9 in the solar system. So that's showing you why you can't really see it. And that was done June 20th, last month. But this one is the one we're going to read. This is really the one. This was 8 days ago. The man himself and his colleagues, Bailey, Vatican, and Brown. They worked on all this and referenced it all. So what they realized is there's a 6-degree obliquity. And that means the plane is, just let me pull up a quick program, it'll be the easiest way to do this. There's the plane that we call the ecliptic, okay? And it's just easy to show and how they measure it from there. So they take the ecliptic plane, and from there they measure a 90-degree angle. And that is 0. And then an offset's 180 and 90 and 270, so on. And it's just how they do it. We go into...
See, the problem with this is when we recorded this the past 2 times in this specific section, it doesn't work.
Yeah, so if you guys don't see what we're showing you, I apologize, but we're showing you how all the planets sit on one level playing field that's just a straight line, if you can't see this right now. And they measure up from that at 90 degrees to make up from the sun, and that's your 0. And from that is where they base this, okay? From that to where its North Pole is and where it actually rotates. So when you're holding a globe on your desk and you're spinning the globe, you notice how the axle goes through it and it's tilted. It's not straight up and down, and the globe is kind of cockeyed. That's what I'm talking about. You knowing that 90 degrees straight up and down level is where it should be, and seeing that it's tilted and spinning that way is the obliquity. Okay, so our Earth's about 24 degrees. The sun's only 6 degrees. But what they're saying is, if we lived in a binary solar system and we had a planet that was 5 to 20 Earth masses bounce between those in an eccentric inclined orbit, it would explain this completely, and all the other phenomena that we observe today that is unexplained, basically. All these, like I said, are references. What he goes in to say, he just gives an introduction on all these papers. Now, every one of these papers is saying the same thing, basically. Every one of these astrophysicists, scientists, every one of these people know that there's a planet out there, and this is what they do, is they study Planet 9, Planet X, Nibiru, whatever you want to call it, these incoming planets, these incoming bodies, and how the universe works. So what happens here is we get into the geometric setup of the dynamical model. So what I believe happened here, and what they're not showing you, when they give you this model, because they go out as far to show you a model of the orbit of Planet 9 and how it matches Sitchin's, Harrington's, like Gilbert-Lazard's to a point, at least by the shape.
By the shape, right?
Okay, by the shape, anyways. You can see where Gil's coming from it by shape. And like I said, Gil's data does show up in the Bible. But God time was multiplied by 10, and a lot of people don't realize that. That's what I was saying. Well, a day is a month, a year is 10 years. 10 years is 100 years. They actually break that down in the Bible in a lot of places. So like a year to God, and just like the Anunnaki is like a shar, these things, it was different. So he could have been off by 10. It's off. The Sitchin could have not realized things. It was a number basis, but they have a number basis, the sexadecimal. I doubt, after I realized this, I doubt that Sitchin and all these people that know and understand a number system that are 360 degrees of a circle or 12 inches in a foot, 12 foot in whatever, however you want to say it. There's always that reoccurring 12, 16, 360, 180. It's based off of a number system that's sexadecimal. It's their Anunnaki number system, and we still use it. Have you ever thought of like, why is there 12 inches in a foot? And
oh yeah.
You're like, that's why. That's what it came from. It came from there because you used to be able to count that on hands. All right, you can count into the millions and divide into the millions and things like that on your hands. That's why it was so efficient. Okay, there's a counting system that you can use the creases in your knuckles, and literally anybody could multiply into the millions and divide into fractions on their hands without a calculator. Okay, pretty cool stuff.
Well, you would, if you wanted to do that, probably have to get rid of the high fluoride toothpaste. You'd maybe need to step back from the genetically modified corn chips, maybe not watch as much Hollywood mind control programming and actually study. Then you could possibly do that, yes.
Yeah, it's
It
just
is
well, it's the
idiocracy
idea.
nowadays.
Dropping zeros. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. If you can count your fingers and just remember, basically, if you wanted to do it, you could write the numbers in their equivalents on the line that your knuckle is, and you wouldn't have to. You could literally do this. We could teach this to people.
Is that how they got the term knucklehead?
Probably. Yep. Knuckleheads. Yep.
I'll tell you what.
They can count with their hands, but no, it's brilliant though. That means the human genome was considered when thinking about this. But something that's 10 to 20 Earth masses, the beings that live on there, if they're humanoid, they'd have to be really tall and have a lot of really big bone structure. They'd be like gods compared to us to just withstand the gravity of that planet. That's why when they come here, it would be like just like a paradise resort, and we'd be fleas to them. And then if they give us some of their genetic code, it explains why a lot of the problems we have, because they gave us some codes from high gravity planet, put us on a low gravity planet, put us upright with monkey DNA, this, that, and the other. And there's problems all throughout our race. If you realize that if we were really naturally evolved the way we were, we wouldn't have any of the diseases like MS or anything like that. It can't be proven through evolution because it happens too quick. Mutations can't happen. Go ahead.
You know what I wonder, Jason? If 90-something% of the diseases and ailments out there are some way, shape, or form created by mankind. Now, let's look at this for a minute. If you go back to the polio vaccines, that over 100 million people that received the polio vaccine were injected with cancer cells. Look it up. Now, Let's add to that. Not only did the people that got that virus get injected with cancer cells, okay, so once they get injected with it, essentially, it is a generational effect. Their kids can get it. Their grandkids, their great-grandkids possibly. That is a generational effect. If you go look at all of these neurological disorders and skin issues and problems people have with digestive issues and such, how many people 50 years ago had those problems? 1%? Maybe? Look at a picture, go back and find a black and white image of people 50 years ago, 60 years ago, 70 years ago, 80 years ago, and then look at people now on a mass archetype here. Look at groups. If you don't see a difference there, then you need glasses. I mean, it's insane. You look at society now where you've got factory farms where they produce chickens and that can't even see daylight because they won't grow as big. They're force-fed steroids and growth hormones, so they can't even walk more than a couple of feet, and then they fall because their bones won't handle it. A friend of mine back in the day told me about these. He saw this chicken truck where it looked like this genetically modified chicken was trying to get out of its cage on the freeway and kill itself. He said it was the creepiest thing he ever saw in his life. You see those leaked videos of people sometimes that work at these farms and slaughterhouses, and the way that they treat the animals before they kill them it's just like, wow, hell does exist, folks. It's here right now for some creatures. It's absolutely horrific. And then you look at what people do to their own family members without even realizing it because they're lied to by certain pharmaceutical industries. And they think they're doing the right thing. And in reality, oftentimes, it's poison packaged into something good. Anyway, I'm going off on a tangent here. I'm digressing. Let's go back to Planet X. And you brought up the orbits and stuff we were looking at earlier, the monies and such, where that looks very similar, that chart and that path, to what we're seeing right here.
Yeah, I think that video is actually good. We did that one on Skype, so you'll be able to share that one.
Yeah.
So yeah, they'll see that part. But what they did here was what I believe is there's something, I don't know if that is human that's doing that. Whatever maybe is manipulating the very top of the pyramid, we'll say, is definitely causing all of this. So I don't know how else to put that. And there's probably maybe there's two warring factions, the one that wants the top of the pyramid and the one that is at the top of the pyramid. And they probably both want the same major agenda, just want them to be in control of it. So who knows? There's obvious conflict going on. You can't go to war with yourself, all right? That's just, I mean, you can, but it doesn't make sense unless you're playing the middle field and manipulating the people for their own extents, but there also seems to be some kind of benevolent force pushing through and wanting to help people out and enlighten them too, because there's got to be a reason that there's people like me and you and others out there that think like this, that connect with each other, and just can see it for what it is. That's,
Absolutely.
there's got to be something assisting us through all this darkness, and who knows what it is, but there is that cosmic balance there, that yin and yang, and without that there'd just be nothingness. So you can see it apparent in your everyday life. Like I said, it's the reason why, too much sun burns your skin or too much rain sucks, but why you enjoy a little bit of both after you had too much sun or too much rain or any of that. It's pain with love. It's just the way things work, man. So on to the next thing. I believe what they did here is just flip this 180 degrees, this being the south pole of the sun, and they just didn't label that because it's your reference plane. Here's your reference plane. It doesn't show you which direction is north from there, okay? Basically the galactic north. So they could show you this, tilt it in any direction and whatever, but said how they misleaded people was to do it this way, I'm believing. Because when it crosses right here, this is the ecliptic plane. I believe that down here is the northern hemisphere, and all the data shows this. That's why they got the Chilean, and they even show you here in a moment why they have to view it from the southern hemisphere in high conditions, things like that, and where they're looking for it. But they got it down to an orbital plane, and they say that it's definitely not within 2/3 of the orbital plane. They got it down to a 1/3 section of the orbital plane, and it's pretty close to the Earth. So yeah, that number you were talking about it gets pretty small. I've seen it get as small as 0.3 astronomical units of the Earth, like as the closest, like aphelion. So that's 1/3 of the distance from us to the sun, away from us, which could be in between Mars and Jupiter about. We'll just say that. And yeah, that's pretty
Nice.
crazy, man. That's crazy. The 250 astronomical units would be the perihelion, so that'd be like the furthest it's out, and that's what they're guessing. To go on more into that, it just shows you. So yeah, flip that, take this into your mind and flip it completely opposite, just 180 degrees, and you would see what I'm saying there. That's all. Just put this as the South Pole, and the one you don't see down here below this blue plane is the North Pole. Okay, so it's just like a different view of a picture. So to go on, it says there's basically a perturber, and they know that there's something perturbing orbits, and it can't be explained by those 7 objects that they've found and labeled. So they actually labeled these 7 objects with like serial numbers, basically, so people can't look them up or find them or try to search with them with their own telescope that easily. And what they're doing is they're really, like I said, they're cleverly hiding this stuff. You have to have a college education to really know what the heck's going on and get a full understanding for yourself without looking within somebody else to see what this stuff really means. But when you just look, they come to conclusions, usually, in layman's terms at least, somewhere where you could translate it from that. So what they're saying is this planet tilted our sun 6 degrees over the course of the birth of our solar system, and they can prove that, and they can prove the tilt of a lot of other things, the perturbation of Neptune and all these other things. Here's 10 mass of the Earth chart. Everything works out. The 350, all these numbers in the incline is between 20 and 40 degrees, so it's, like I said, about anywhere around -24 to 30, I remember in previous interviews, and it's showing you that that's correlating with the data, the good one. Right? After they skew the data with 5 to 10 more Earth masses, which is 15 to 20 Earth masses, the data goes insufficient. It's the obliquity of the sun and the tilts and orbits and stuff is insufficient, and it doesn't work out. If they get 20 Earth masses, it destroyed the Kuiper belt every time. So that Kuiper belt wouldn't exist. Okay? So they know it's about 10 Earth masses. And then they run these charts thousands of times, and that's how they get the data. It reflects. And that's the same thing up here. So they did it with another kind of measurement where they did the spin orbit misalignment, basically, where it's the same thing I was talking about, but it's like I said, when you're spinning that globe, how it's not where you think north, like if you were to put a basketball on your finger and spin it, as opposed to how the globe spins if you had a globe spinning there in orientation to the tilt, basically. Right. There you go. So that's what they're saying. And then the same thing happens. 10 Earth masses with an incline between 22 to 29 degrees. So that, like, this 23 is the sweet spot you can see right there. I use that number because of the Earth. That's where it gave me that number. It was 23.5, because the Nebra sky disk says that we had to be shifted 24 degrees south and then readjust it over time. And that's been boggling scientists forever, man. And just showing that this happened, that something came by, pulled us down 24 degrees, and the observatory at that time captured it, took, did everything they could to document it, and then showed the Earth correcting back to its natural state of where it is now. So that is where I got the 24 degrees, and it showed that 24 degrees holds true. If they add 15 Earth masses, 20 Earth masses, Kuiper Belt's destroyed. It's an insufficient angle. It doesn't work. So everything I've pretty much told you in the past still holds up. And yeah, just trying to show you how far I was going not to mislead people. I really was doing my best to give the best information I could to you, and we discuss it. We didn't say what was definite or this and that, but it's showing you right here that they are definite, 99.99% sure and certain, and putting their careers on it in a paper with their name on it. Okay? So attack them. Go ahead. Go attack them without understanding any of this and telling them that all this work that they did is wrong. And that's fine. I mean, if people want to do that, they can. That's great. Whatever. Because it doesn't mean anything. It'd be like me coming to McDonald's and telling you how to flip burgers if that was your job. I don't know how to do that.
My friend told me that was all conspiracy, so I don't believe any of it. I'm just saying I think it's not true.
Yeah. Like, it's not true. You got, like, the perfect illiterate hillbilly voice. You got. That's awesome.
I really am a illiterate hillbilly. I can't read.
I know.
We don't talk about that.
We don't text each other. We always have to call. No, just kidding.
I use this software program. It's called Voice to Text. So I don't even have to.
That's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
All right. So there's that data. We can go. That basically was just summarizing that data.
People used to think I was a prolixing sesquipedalian, and now the truth is out. I can't.
The truth's out. He's a troglodyte. An illiterate troglodyte, whatever that means.
That's hardcore.
I think we just made it up.
My precious. I feel like we're in Lord of the Rings right now.
I know.
The ring.
So they're just proving their theory right here. We conclude that the notion of Planet 9 as a dominant driver of the solar obliquity is plausible. That is the conclusion of their whole scientific paper. It's like, hey, and not only is it possible, they're 99.993% positive. Okay, there you go. That even shows the proof of Sedna, as said, and other things. But it proves that we have a super Earth in our outer solar system that we are just now discovering and really learning about, with being able to hide it from the scientists. Like, they can't hide this stuff because the scientists are finding out on themselves. Now, suppressing information is different. Whether they knew this from earlier research 40 years ago is totally different. And we've seen the proof of this, and that's why I found this data. So it had to hold true at some extent, all right? But I don't see how else I could have all this data that I've from my research and what I've concluded as like a summary of facts, basically into one paragraph, that I could say this is true throughout all data of everybody I've talked to. And yeah, and it stays true with this paper. Okay.
Also, we received on Leak Project just yesterday a link from one of our listeners. I appreciate the person that sent us this link to space.com. 2 nearby exoplanets confirmed to be rocky and may be habitable. And then there was another one that was referenced to this article as well that said something like, that said 2 Earth-sized planets with ET life possibly found. So that's pretty incredible. They're actually saying, hey, we have found planets now on mainstream news that could have life, and not just your amoeba life, but people like you, people like myself and others that actually can think for themselves, unless they've already been assimilated by the Borg. So it could be Borg. That's a possibility.
I think that there's life all around us in a highly evolved form that's light bodies almost. When you look through and you study the chakra systems and all the ancient occult knowledge, it all goes back to basically Roy G. Biv, red, orange, yellow, blue, green, indigo, violet, whatever, how you go up through that. And that aligns with your chakras and the light frequency, breaking it up into everything. I mean, everything. Even when you look at the color white on your screen or the white cloud on a sunny day, some people can see the rainbow throughout that color, throughout white. Now, it's like looking at your pixels. If you spray your screen with Windex and you see you see the red, the primary colors, right, on the pixelations, especially on the old TVs, things like that. It's the same idea. Now, I believe these beings are basically just in tune with nature, whatever they were. Their evolution was in the next step, and they're beyond human comprehension at this point, because they do not exist on the same level we do. They do, because our soul is what's controlling our body, but they don't need the physical body, and people can't come to terms with that because they can't comprehend it. And that's the idea. God and all these angels, it was beyond human comprehension. They had to speak in parables of it. They had to tell stories at times when they were speaking of it in the same sense in the spirit world. When they talk about these ancient tribes and stuff, I'm not always talking about Bibles and things like that. I go back to, spirituality and all kinds of things, and they all intertwine at these same cross points. So yeah, I completely believe that there's life all around us that we just don't understand or can't comprehend. I believe that. Go ahead.
Oh, go ahead. Okay, yeah, I was going to say also there's an article that came out a couple years ago on space.com, and for those of you that have seen the Star Trek Into Darkness film, excellent movie, by the way. I'm just really impressed with the new series of Star Trek movies that have came out. Not only the special effects, but the characters, the way that they get into characters, just unbelievable. But okay, so remember the beginning of that film where they're on Nibiru. And you've got Spock, which is down in the volcano, trying to stop this thing from erupting, because if it does, it's going to blow up the whole planet. And they're just seconds away from the entire planet exploding. They stop it, and then they blast off into space. The people on Nibiru are actually tribal. They're more of a tribal people in this film. They see that happen, and they just completely forget about their old religion. Not forget about it, but they change from their old belief system. Now they believe that ship that's blasting off into space is essentially God form.
Yeah. They thought it was like they watched it save them, come out of the volcano, this and that. And like I said, the people stole their scrolls and jumped into that ship. They thought when they were stealing that old religion and hung it in a tree, they thought that was like they were being symbolic. They were trying to study their religion and culture and then, infiltrate and then leave and not show them. Kind of Anunnaki, type, influence them, but don't let them know. That's like a breaking a galactic law. They cannot be tribal and seeing spaceships flying out of the ocean, man. You will mess up the whole storyline of that culture. And that's what happened, and that's why he got kicked off the ship and lost his captain privilege, and why Spock took captain. I remember watching that. And it made a great point, and it breaks it down for people to understand the relationship. This isn't conspiracy, it's a storyline. Okay, it's not a conspiracy because there's more dimensions to it than you can comprehend, or layers to it. That gives it reality. Okay, there's a difference. When you only have one veil of piece of evidence, like a crappy photo or something, and then you're just telling a story with it, then that's different. We have people, dedicating their lives finding artifacts. It's all the evidence is very whatever you want to say.
And also, Jason, there's another article I'm looking at right here on Scientific American. 2 newfound alien planets may be capable of supporting life. One is likely 10% warmer than Earth, the other 6% cooler. How cool is that? And then if you read this, the Kepler Space Telescope has spotted 4 possibly rocky alien planets orbiting the same star, and 2 of these newfound worlds might be capable of supporting life. Well, how would they not be capable of supporting life, as one is 10% warmer than Earth, which our planet could be 10, 20 years from now, and then one's 6% cooler? That's pretty darn capable of containing life, in my opinion. And every single day there's a new article that comes out saying we found new planets that could have life. If there's 1 billion planets just within not this solar system, within this Milky Way, I think there's more than that. A Milky Way is just one small piece to the universe, and the universe is just one small piece to the omniverse, and I'm sure the omniverse is just one small piece to I don't know what verse, continuing to go at a grander scale every single time, like layers of onions. And is it an endless, infinite onion that never completely unfolds all the way? I think so.
Yeah, it's a river of energy, the way I look at it. And these universes are bubbles. Universes are like bubbles in that. So they don't really interact with each other. They might be beside each other or around each other or very, very similar to each other and happen in the same process, but they come from the same source, just like matter manifests particles or wavelengths. That's it. That's the only thing. When you throw something in the water, you see both of them. You see the drop come up out of the water, and you see the wavelengths moving outwards. So you see this transferring of energy from your hand to the rock, to the ground, to the water, to the ripples, to the fish all around them. Just that one little transferring of energy from you throwing a rock, you can learn so much about how this is an energy cycle. This source energy, that's what people are in the religions, I believe, were trying to tell us was God. This 0-point energy had removed itself from the original source or wherever it was to create a void to let these things happen, to make it basically just it almost takes consciousness, like a all-knowing everything, the everything that we just basically all-knowingness, like formless, completely formless, nameless entity being that shares all. So instead of doing that, it would recreate a matrix, if you will, so everybody could experience different grains of sand in this grand scheme of everything, get to go through the the glory of, that oneness and have something out of it instead of just no manifestation of the energy. The energy's kind of wasted if it doesn't manifest something. So it's like you said, a river of energy that creates those bubbles and the omniverse, you called it. That's the omniverse, God, the 0 point energy, the manifestations through frequency and light, everything. Everything's light, everything's frequency and a vibration of some form of energy, and it's just transferred and shown in different ways. Even matter, like matter is just a manifestation of energy. Pretty neat.
I think there's also the opposite of light. There's the anti-light and
The void.
the void. Now, but the void is also something. Nothing is something. Now, look at this right now. I pulled this screen up. Let's go back to Planet X here for a moment and talk about a whole bunch of conspiracy theorists out there. Now, Science World Report, conspiracy theorists. Scientific American, conspiracy theorists. National Geographic, conspiracy theorists. Why am I calling these guys conspiracy theorists? Well, look. Scientists find evidence for ninth planet in the solar system. Conspiracy theorists, you guys are out of your mind. You guys are absolutely crazy. National Geographic,
That one right
theorists.
there. That one right there. The ninth planet. That is the super Earth that they're talking about. The artist's depiction of Brown's study from the study that we're looking at. That is not said. No, that is the super Earth, Nibiru, whatever. Tell me that isn't what they're talking about. That's it. That's why they call it the ninth planet there.
It's concentrated swamp gas.
Clever. How many people are going to look up the ninth planet and think they're looking for Pluto? Okay? Or Aries, or what are they, Sirius. They're not thinking of, they're thinking of the whole Pluto controversy. They're not thinking of Nibiru, Planet X, aliens controlling our destiny, Christ, cryogenic freezing tubes and avatars taking over people's body, kind of crazy stuff. Like, yeah, that's all written in these documents. They didn't write fiction. That was the first language. Why would they write fiction? Think about it. You create a language to write fiction? Wait, a unified world language and writing system to keep documents and tell of the societal firsts of this planet and the origins, but they're made up stories, right? That'd be a big intervention there, Well, you want me to go ahead and switch screens back now real quick?
Yeah, go back to the screen that you were on, and we can finish up the documents that we were...
All right, so here it shows you some of the equations and shows you some of the complexity of what's really going on, but it shows you that they're doing very complex equations to prove this. They're not just stating it. They're showing you how they come to figure out a lot of it, and basically based on quasi-harmonic frequency and things like that. Like crazy things that we have no idea. And like the Poincare Cartesian coordinates and the expanded Hamiltonian equations. Okay, you see what I'm saying? These are beyond what trolls can talk about. So I'm just giving you the references.
Oh, trolls can talk about anything. Doesn't mean it's going to make sense, but...
No, they can't talk about this.
they can talk about it.
Then all right, that person
They'll
talks
say this is
about
the
it.
holographic equation. It doesn't say this in the Bible, so it's not true. I'm telling you, I was told it's not true. It's not true. You're going to
that's-
hell.
That's different though. That's a believer, and they're not trolling on purpose.
Or they'll just start swearing at you. The mother effer this, you fool, this, beep, 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 beep. I'm telling you, they'll just, all cap letters.
Yeah.
You're the demon. The earth is flat.
Yeah, so exactly, that's what it is. Like they talk about flat Earth and this and that. And like I said, anybody that tells me that, like I've literally had discussions where I've told people and they just kind of stopped talking about it because they realized, wait,
I have a good friend that thinks the earth is flat still, and
I
she
could
hears me give
convince
her
him.
a hard time often. So I'm just joking around about that. You guys know I'm just kind of playing around here, but really though, there's a lot of comments like that, and sometimes when I read those comments, I feel that it really is a troll leaving that just to spin somebody, not a government troll or anything, but somebody that says that just to steer the attention away somewhere else. Oh man, there's another guy that thinks the earth is flat when in reality he doesn't.
Well, a lot of them people are scam artists and know how to make money off YouTube. And that's what they do. They make lies and they fill them full of lies and filters and screenshots. They look around and they say, oh my God, this guy is sharing lens flares and people are loving it. I'm going to make money off this. And that's what they do. And they watch the cameras and then they're like, oh, Mandela effect's ending the world and this and that. And when it's all, every example.
The nano goblins will eat your brains. You can watch the DARPA technology. They are doing it right now to me.
So it's funny. How are they going to attack me for saying things every time I can present it with data? And then when I debunk something, I debunk it with data, all right? So I'm they call me a conspiracy theorist, but when I say something about what they say or can prove it wrong, I'm not a conspiracy theorist. I'm a troll at that point. You get what I'm saying? It's
Whatever
fun.
fits their agenda at that time.
Yeah, exactly.
Anyway, I think we've hit on that enough.
But we'll go on. So they were just talking.
Kumbaya. Sorry, I just totally destroyed that.
Kumbaya.
I'm gonna have to edit that out.
It'll be all right. We'll go on. So Planets 9, their conclusion was they know they got it down to an orbital configuration, and they know that it's not in 2/3 of that orbit. So they're gonna continue to search the rest of that 1/3 of the orbit until they find this thing. So what they're telling us is this is a time bomb. They've told us the whole time. It's been here in front of us the whole time, and they did tell us. We just didn't pay attention. Okay, it gets getting closer and closer. They're showing us that they're gonna any day now they'll be releasing it any time within the next couple months. I guarantee it. But yeah, they gave basically suggestions with
The
graphs.
Jason Jeffries guarantee.
You
Or
look-
your money back.
Oh, your money back. Yeah, they'll be discovering this or taking photographic evidence of this here very soon. But they have a chart up here that shows the coordinates, the speed of the trajectory. I'd like to show this to Jared. He has to see this because he does a lot of this math with all trajectories.
Speaking of Gerald, what a great interview we had the other day when he was on Mauro Bellino and Claudia. I'll tell you what, the works that Gerald's put together, paralleling with what Mauro has put together, being a translator for the Vatican, and he was handpicked to be a translator for the Vatican. And then after he comes up with all of this information, well, essentially now he doesn't work with the Vatican anymore. But it was just so neat to see their ideals and life work, essentially, their magnum opus, coming together, and that apex of paradigm-shifting information was just an incredible interview. And you read through the comments of that, whether it was from a Christian or a Muslim or somebody who's agnostic or atheist or somebody that studied the mysticism and the more hermetic type arts, almost every single comment was positive. Now, at the same time, there was the people that were like didn't know what to think and gave their opinion of how they felt that it was not true because of their beliefs in their religions, which is totally cool. And that's what's great about the Leak Project is you can bring ideas on all aspects. And if you don't agree with it, let's have a good conversation about it and debate. That's what makes people more in tune with everything. I mean, if you really think about it, no matter how good science is, doesn't it seem, Jason, that science rewrites itself more than it doesn't? It's a constant evolution of change.
Yeah, we're constantly trying. It's a struggle for understanding. And once we have more understanding, and it's paradigm shifting, like I told you, we have to go back and recalculate data because we have new angles. And then we can start to eliminate phenomena and give them known facts, known sciences. Okay, that's what happens. It happens every time. Okay, it definitely. When Mauro said that the Elohim were the Anunnaki, and he confirmed that, that was enough for me because everything he said was basically me, you, Gerald, all of us have talked about this on the show. And these were our translations or our assumptions or look at the difference. Look how this says we, us, let's create this, him in our image and this and that. You realize that there's a conflict between these Elohim, the Elohim, these. And when you realize that it can be taken in the sense of a verb, like the word saw. I could say I'm going to saw my leg off or I saw a plane in the sky. That is what they were trying to figure out, okay? And then once they clouded your judgment and made it called God because these people were your creators and you see what I mean? They clouded the water because saw, the same type of thing was going on. They didn't know if it was a verb or a noun. But what you can do is look at the words around it and you can see that it says...
My friend seen that scene. You know that scene in that movie? Did you seen that?
Yeah, so the words leading up to it are the clues. You can say that it says, let us create him in our image. That means there is more than one. The Elohim was a noun, and it was a plural noun. That, done. And it's translated into Hebrew. You can type in Elohim on Google Translator, hit the blam, hit it up, and it'll show you what it looks like in the Hebrew and how they read it. And there you go. This Mauro didn't add vowels to cloud the water or say, well... he was talking about a chainsaw. He didn't mean he saw a chain, like he didn't see a chain laying in the yard. It was using a chainsaw. He doesn't do that kind of stuff. He translates it, and whatever the clues around the words are, that's the literal translation. They're not going to make an illiterate sentence like you just said, and it's just what makes sense. They're not going to make typos in a Bible, things like that. I have seen like typos in printed Bibles, though, like whole chapters missing, weird things like that. Or reprinted pages. There's little Gideon Bibles they pass out at like pizza shops and weird stuff like that.
Right.
But anyways, here is your declination. I'll read this to you. Using all the constraints on the orbital and physical parameters of Planet 9, we can predict the location, distance, brightness, and speed of the planet throughout its orbit. Regions within 10 degrees of the galactic plane are outlined in red. The ecliptic plane is shown in blue. The colored portions show regions where the Planet 9 would have been or should be detected by previous or ongoing surveys. Light blue shows limits from where the CRTS reanalysis. Yellow shows the dark energy survey limits and coverage. Dark blue is the pan-stars. Green is pan-stars moving objects. Red is eventual pan-stars. Remember I showed you that that's how they found VP 113. Another planet that just discovered. Orange shows region exclusively ruled out by the lack of observed perturbation of Saturn. So it means that if it's orange, it's probably not there. Okay. Black region says it's probably not there. Blue region, there's a chance that it could be there in the future, but not right now. Because we'd obviously see it because it's like on the plane of the ecliptic, and we'd have probably seen it years ago. In that case. So what they're saying is, if you look at it, you could narrow it down to where you could see where they think it's at. And like I said, there's always this blue segment that's really close. And these are like the high probability areas. I'm thinking right here, this little phenomena they have going on with this. I think that is for a reason. And how I'm reading the data is, this is showing you the coordinates. This would be the declination. So you know for a fact that it's not above 40. You see it there. So whatever you want to take from that, then it's definitely not above, like around the ecliptic, because you can see there's the blue path. This was where it'd be rising above the ecliptic eventually, but not right now. This could be a future position. And these are saying it's not there, definitely not there right now. These orange things are saying that's definitely not there. So the probability is it's around this area, in every one of them. Okay, magnitude. What they're saying, this is the distance. That means it's closer. It's below the ecliptic. It's going pretty fast, the odds are. It gets higher. And the magnitude, what they measure in magnitude when talking in astronomy, you're talking about its visibility. Anything below a certain number on this scale, and I can't remember, you can research this for yourself, is completely invisible to the human eye. So they're kind of showing you the same phenomenon in the same square, and I think that was maybe code for what was going on. The red dots over here are showing you 10 Earth mass objects and how they were appearing in the graph, and showing you how they correlate all this data with the sky position and how they estimate the orbits and predict the orbital path of it across the sky. And there's some observational constraints, they say, because of them scanning these objects and what's all going on. They're basically taking photos and reviewing it. But the ones they give credit to is the WISE discussion, which is, I've showed you before, the anomalies in that. There's 2 anomalies going across the ecliptic. There, one's in Virgo, one's in Pisces. And they're going opposite of direction of any planets and what they should be. And they're thinking a 10 Earth mass planet. And it's above, they're thinking that it could raise above a black body level, meaning like an invisibility level, so we could potentially actually see it with our human eyes at some point along its orbit. And what they're saying is this is another survey that could have found it, but they didn't find it yet in. This is the other surveys where they had things turn up in them, and there's a good estimate that they're actually further out in space, so they're probably not as relevant to us at this point right now because this thing's closer than that. This is the dark energy survey, and it'll show that it'll be sensitive to it once it gets in within a certain range. Once it becomes within a certain range, it could indefinitely detect this thing. And I think they were hinting at something when they said the dark energy survey. That just... Why wouldn't they call it something else? I don't know. Kind of puzzling. And they have additional surveys here. If you have anything to add real quick before we go over the conclusions and discuss anything else, we'll go ahead and add it, Rex.
No, I think you're doing a great job, Jason. I'm going to give you the mic to finish it up. And once again, I want to say thanks for coming on the show.
Awesome. Okay. So, yeah, we got basically what they're saying is they know this thing's coming in. They're getting ready to see it. They got it predicted. They call it Planet 9. It proves Sedna, the tilt of the sun itself. And they actually admitted that the sun is tilted 6 degrees, which I thought was nice since everybody was freaking out over that for the whole YouTube community over the summer was saying the sun's tilting and things like that. And the sunspots, and yeah, well, they confirmed it, so that's cool, right? And let's see here. Yeah.
Also wanted to give just credit to the people that put the paper together, and
yes,
that way, because I mean, this is just so much information, and the amount of time they must have put into this is incredible.
Yeah. So I'm going to go ahead and go over the reference pages here. Our views of any of the references on this paper itself. I'll go to the top. We'll read those are the references on the other papers I've shown. We'll go to the top and read the author's name. Konstantin Badigan and Michael E. Brown. extra special thanks to you, truth seekers and awesome smart guys.
Yeah, thank you very much. Seriously, your minds are absolutely at another level versus myself. I couldn't do this kind of stuff. I've, certainly, I can talk to people, but when you get into this kind of data, it's just mind blowing. So much appreciated.
Yeah, exactly. Michael E. Brown and Constantine Badigan again, and Elizabeth Bailey, and the latter two that we mentioned before. We'll go down to the final reference page, so we make sure to cover all the references and give everybody the data. If you guys pause over this, anytime you want, you can look these data up, type it in just as you see, and they will pop up with results. That is a professional reference, and that will show you the paper that they were talking about. Some of the papers will cost you about $9. Some of them are free. I only had to pay for one of these papers to release it to the public. The rest were cool on and available on my library card. But I had to set up a library card with them. So yes. So there's many references. There's the astrophysicist talking about this that everybody was asking for. There's the scientist telling you.
I got to say something real quick too before we close out. You brought up, those are the astrophysicists. These guys are well educated. They've been going to school for years, and then now they're professors. And these are professors as well, aren't they?
Yeah, they're literally in the Division of Geological and Planetary Sciences from Caltech, California Institute of Technology.
So they're far from conspiracy theorists. As a matter of fact, if you bring a conspiracy to these, I'm assuming, I'm not trying to put words in their mouth, but I would assume that, in my opinion, most people that have these positions have to stay as far away from conspiracies as possible, because they're working with people that are very engineer mindset. They want the data. They want to be able to produce it. If they see something in the sky that they can't explain, well, they're going to figure out how to explain it. Otherwise, they'll spend countless hours until it does come to a conclusion. These guys, they want the data and the facts. They don't want to talk about woo-woo most of the time.
Exactly. They put their careers on the line when they write these papers. These are their professional papers. These are the same thing that Einstein did in his reports. When he did this the same way. You do an introduction. It's a scientific process, and that's what they do. And they will not put lies out there. They will not do it. They just won't. They have to show data. They might not show the data that might go towards it, but they don't have to explain it. This stuff is very confusing on its own. So why not they? But like I said, it's all here. And they are 99.993% positive.
007.
007.
Nibiru.
All right. Yeah. So that is, and it actually says in these papers that in cross conjunction with the other papers referenced goes down to 0.0001% doubt, because you have other data that they're not adding in, but they know is fact. So there you go.
Well, Jason, I got to tell you, thanks again for joining us here at the Leak Project. Folks, make sure to go to leakproject.com, subscribe, become a member. You'll have access to the latest podcasts, and you can also get access to any podcast ad-free. You can either download them onto your phone, into your computer, if you like to listen to them on the way to work, or when you're at work and you don't have Wi-Fi or something like that. Make sure to go to leakproject.com, become a member there. Also go to youtube.com/clandestine Time Lord, become a member on YouTube. You'll have access to the latest podcasts as well. Be the change you want to see. This is Rex Bear. Talk to you soon. Now, Jason has actually got papers for us. He put his own time and money to get this information. These are the most recent papers and documents about Planet 9, they call it. They don't call it Planet X anymore. It's called Planet 9. Looks like there's a 99.99% chance, according to these guys, some of the brightest minds in the field, that there is a huge anomaly in our solar system that's causing the planets to shift off axis, and many other issues that people are talking about today. Now, is this Nibiru or wormwood? I don't know. Is it something? Yes. So Jason's going to break this down for us. Jason, thanks a lot for joining us here at the Leak Project. How the heck are you?
I'm doing good as usual, Rex. Just going ahead, and we're taking the time to re-record this.
Yeah, let's tell people about that.
We had a problem the other night where we were shooting the show, we got interrupted, and we were using a different program to record it because of our Skype problems, and we shared some information with each other on Skype on how to reach each other through this other program, and then it started being interfered with. My internet signal seemed to be hijacked or something again, and now we can't get the data to format or convert over open at all. So we've actually tried for hours. So we're just going to go ahead and reshoot this and try again here. So
Third time's the charm.
But the draft version of this is July 15th of this year. So they released this just a couple days before to the public, okay? So we're going to go over some of the first ones here. What's going on is they're just showing these astrophysicists, geological and planetary scientists are studying together with previous works and all these reference papers. So I had to set up an account, I had to pay for their papers, and I have to give them credit because it's their work and not mine. I'm just interpreting their work and information to the public, okay? So I'll go ahead and go to the reference page, actually, on this one, on all of them here, and give you
But
some
this is all
references.
just conspiracy theorist stuff, guys. I mean, these people don't have degrees and very prestigious colleges. They haven't spent years of their life researching this stuff. I mean, when you look at some of these mathematical formulas, I don't even think I could put that stuff in a calculator, let alone figure it out myself. Man, it's incredible.
Yes, you could program it into the calculator if you had some, calculus classes and algebra 2 classes, really advanced math. And I mean, when I say advanced, I mean advanced, not the basics. You'd have to have a very high understanding of that. But the math is there, and it's simple to some people, crazy to us. Okay, it's completely Chinese to us at times. I feel like I can roughly translate. I can see what they're talking about, understand symbols and things like that. That's about it. Like this right here. That's 10 Earth masses. That little symbol with the cross in it is Earth. The quadrants of the Earth, and M is the mass. 10 is obviously the mass. 10 Earth masses. That's 10 times the mass of Earth. So they say there's something out there. I'll just read it to you. Recent analysis have shown that the distant orbits within the scattered disk population of the Kuiper Belt exhibit an unexpected clustering in their respective arguments to the perihelion. They found, basically what they're saying, they found 7 objects, just like I said before, 7 objects around something that's about 10 masses of the Earth out there. And they're saying they show that not only in an argument of perihelion, it says in physical space, they're saying these things share, they're really there, they're not just a gravity effect that's amplified. There's something really there. We demonstrate that they're basically saying that clustering only has a probability of 0.0007% due to chance. So they ran all of these observations, everything they could, completely randomly 1,000 times, and the only way they could replicate that is not even a whole percent chance of a time, not even 1,000th of a percent of a chance of time. And then, actually, when you correlate their data and their findings with the other knowns that this thing has to be, it goes down way, way less than that. They're almost certain. All they have to do is name it, which it's already been named for years in our history books, I believe. I believe this is the one they're really making a deal about, Nibiru, whatever it was. I believe this is the Planet X. I believe that's the planet that they're talking about that actually considers to be a planet. If you'd like to add anything on this, Rex, before I go on?
Yeah, I would, actually. Yeah, absolutely. Now, this is a conversation I've been having recently with several guests. I think I've talked to you about it before the show and friends of mine. This planetary body or anomaly that they've discovered that's causing some planetary shifts and such, if it is Nibiru, if it is Wormwood, Nemesis, Red Kachina, whatever, I don't know. Yet, the more I think about this Planet X theory and the orbit of this 3,600-year process, the Anunnaki, etc., what if this planetary body moves in a fashion to where they can actually decide where it goes? You've heard of the Type 2, 3 civilizations that can actually move time and space, etc. And if you look at our technology, how much we've advanced over the past just 20 years, it is exponential. It compounds on top of itself. And if we were manipulated by the Anunnaki and many of these references that are talked about through the Sumerian tablets, the Gilgamesh stories, etc., the Atrahasis, Atrahasis, thank you. Yeah,
Numa Elish.
Yes.
Numa Elish.
Thank you. Well, maybe, just maybe, they can actually control this thing and decide where it goes. And with the right manipulation in the media, they can keep us in this factor of, okay, it's over there, it's going to be at this location at a specific time, and we're always in this thought of it's coming here, but we don't know exactly when it's going to get here. We think it's going to be this year, we think it's going to be next year, we think it's going to be the year after that. A lot of times people say September 23rd, that seems to be the most famous date, and then there's a lot of the correlations with when we talked about what's in Revelation. You've been on the show. Gerald Clark's talked about this, Mauro Bellino, the gentleman Jacob that we had on the other day that did the 623. Also, Gil Broussard, Bob Fletcher, a whole bunch, BP, Earthwatch, a whole bunch of people have came up with this. So I'm sure I could go on for 5 shows just to people that came with the same conclusion. Yet maybe they can control the time and date, and maybe they've been controlling things all along behind the scenes. So instead of fearing about this planet causing the pole shift and this just crazy chaos, well, I don't know if that's the best way to focus on this kind of stuff. Maybe it's always been there. Maybe now they're just letting us know about it. That's where I'm going with this.
I feel that they're definitely, it shows throughout past, and I feel when they starting to reveal things like that and throughout the religious texts and things like that, you're most definitely right that it was a controlled. If they're showing you, hey, this is the date ahead of time and this is what to look for and these type of things, it was almost to give more credence to the religions and the things that maybe the people started to doubt at that time. It almost gives perfect timing if you think about it. And like you said, it steers. You could easily steer when you're reading those ancient texts and stuff. It sounds almost as if it was a spaceship they were coming on, a hollowed out planet, if you will, that they could control at least to some degree the rotational fields and gravitational effects they have and how they interact with other planets and sort of steer and slingshot this planet around. It seems very much that way. But whether or not, like I said, when you're looking at God in that same sense, it seems completely opposite in effect of the natural way of things, but also going with the natural way of things. Obviously, there's a lot of anomalies we can't prove with just a natural explosion or situation. That something had to manipulate or place these things in that order to make the perfect petri dish, if you will. At times it looks, but if you say that in the same sense, then they already knew nature. It was almost like they removed themselves from this. They were just scholars and scientists and things like that, toying with nature, playing God, if you will, but not really the 0-point energy, the force that binds us all, the energy that everything's tied to, not that God in the same sense. All right. To completely say that, this is that, and this is this is that. No, it could be a completely positive thing. It could be like bringing completely rays of awesome galactic just
Goodness.
radiation off it. Yeah. That's why probably a lot of us are waking up, like I was showing you with the galactic core and how it rises and dips through the galactic core there the other day on that video. So
On the video